Hey, how you doing? We're having some good fun tonight. Let's get in on our studies of the French defense Winier, so we can get a little bit of French defense. The main line. We get a sip of soda, and then we'll get going. This is the 93 E7. So this is actually the your first 6 moves are played out for the Winier variation. And then the first line is knight f3, which Ginger actually goes over in the Killer French, and he says that it's not a really as strong move. Bishop e2. This is to get ready for castling. Queen a5 to take scope on the pawn. Bishop d2. And then bishop d7. Castles. And then c4. Knight g5. h6. Knight h3. Knight g. h5. Castle queenside. Surprisingly, black's actually safer here because there's only one thing. This could potentially come under fire, and this knight move, you can actually now shift the rook over, bring the knight in via here, and start plunking an attack. So f4, d f8. So remember that we're covering this pawn. Queen e1, knight g7, and then this is the idea, either trying to break here or start an pretty big onslaught via there, and then at the right moment break is an idea too. And then there's a line. This is the end of the opening, but this actually goes into a game, so we'll get that marked there so that you know where it stops. So f3, so a4. This is kind of like a Bobby Fischer. Bobby Fischer sometimes would play a4. So f3, or 6 here. So bishop c1. Let's see here. Trying to get the bishop involved. It's kind of, this is a cramped position for white on the queen side, and it's really interesting. Black has a lot of space, so that's why he's safer here. And there's really not much that white can do to infiltrate in. So f takes e, rook takes, check. Of course, I'm thinking if queen takes, that would lose a pawn, so he can't do that. Just want to make sure. I thought I saw a little bug. King takes so that the queen can stay in contact with the pawn, so. Rook e8 check, or f8 check. And then knight d2. And it's slightly, I think, slightly better for white. I don't know. I'm thinking it's about equal. I think it's not. I don't think it's better for white here. I actually think that slightly black is better. He does have more opportunity to unwind his pieces than white does. So, but that's what Nick Defer said. So, gotta always try. Come on, what are they doing? This is white. This is move 7 for white. Subline. Let's move 7 for black. One more dot. I should have put in here. 1 second. I gotta modify that. This is the main line of knight. Oops. 7. Knight f3. That's the change. This one's a little different. This is kind of the main line if you ever get in it. So you know the main line. And then bishop, I'm thinking f3 and bishop d7. C takes d, or d takes c. Queen c7. This actually takes scope on these two pawns, and then the knight can always go bc6. Bishop d3. Bishop a4. This keeps scope on the pawn, so that really the queen has to stay in contact with this pawn. It also stops castling. There's no rush to take because there's really no way for him to. He could potentially try to, then we play in there. So it's like, rook b1, knight d7. That actually takes scope on these two pawns. One of them's gonna fall, and we actually don't really much mind about these pawns. Really don't bug us. We actually want to grab e5. e5 is actually the one we want to grab. Okay. Rook b4. Oops, not. Mouse slip again. Don't like mouse slips. Bishop c6. Castle kingside. white. Knight takes C. This wins a pawn, and then we can actually retreat back and try to win another one. If you're wondering, like, why didn't we play here? The only problem is there's a pin here, and if we played here, then he can actually bring a rook over, double attack there. And we could try this, but then bishop potentially could take, pawn takes, knight, pawn, bishop takes, and now we're in a world of hurt. So he avoids all that line of problem by just taking here. He's like, you know what, I at least get my pawn back. You don't have a pawn on d4, and later on after castles I can actually play f6 and still demo your center. So it's better than you know, everything else that could have happened. So knight g6. This now attacks here twice, blocks the rook. Knight d4, castle queenside. Now we have the potential to chuck down some pawns down the throat of black. f4, this is to hold his center, the shaky center. Bishop d7. The idea now is to play f6 after takes and then push. So if something like we'll say he brings his bishop out, we played here. If he took, we actually have this, and if he takes here, we just bring our rook over, and he's going to have to play something like back here, but then we grab a piece, and this pawn still is vulnerable too. So bishop d1 is where d7. So rook g3. This is to get out of this pin here. King b8. And the idea is potentially to try to get to king a8 and just get off that. Queen e1, king a8, h4, knight takes d3, so he takes d3, h5. No more bishop to dislodge this knight. So you're probably wondering, like, why in the world would you know, black trade off and allow, you know, slightly better for white? Why would he you know, have that, right? Why would he take the bishop, right, and then go to opposite color and kind of go for a draw? See, if he had tried something else, like now taking here, the bishop could have actually taken, and then the rook could have came in like that. So what we first do is remove the attacker of the knight, and he's going to try to push onward here. So what we do is we take first. After takes, even though we redouble the white's pawns, we get to play h5, bishop e3, which is slightly better for white. So it's interesting. Let's do another chapter. Let's see here. b6 is another line that we could potentially go down. It's kind of these are the main line ideas behind the win here. Knight f3. And then what we decided to do is to actually play b6 here. So if he takes here, we can actually take back, and so he now can't take. This kind of is the idea, but yeah, bishop b5 check though. Bishop d7, bishop d3. And what black's trying to actually say is, I kind of made your bishop move. But we're like, okay, that's fine with us. We just play bishop a4 still. This time, see, we used the bishop as a barricader of stopping the a3 to a4, and then we can actually shut down the whole c4 file, and then castle queenside, and then break with f. This actually would be more of a very, very close position. So if you like close positions, you're going down the right track for you. So bishop comes back to e, h3, oh it's not h3, h6. Knight h4, f4, he plays, oops, sorry, what did I, this is the move here, bc 6, bc6, then f4 is what's played, queen d2, d7, and we're going to castle queenside, then start with the breaks. g6 stops everything. f5, oh, I gotta tell you that I I always forget this here. If you get a position like this and you see your opponent pushing g4, you gotta throw in g6. This is kind of a Ginger actually talks about this on his Killer French Grandmaster Simon Williams, that this is a really vital move order. You have to get this one in, because their idea is to break in the with f5, which is what they do. Then g takes f5, and then g takes f5, knight takes f5, knight takes f5, e takes f5, and at this point you actually have an equal position here. Surprisingly, white actually won this, but it's debatable if white can win this. It's kind of a cramped position for black. So just always remember, if you see g4, or you potentially see a knight come to h, and then you see f4 coming in, so like back here, if you see f4, you can always throw in, I know this sounds odd, you can always throw in g6 to stop. So then when f4 comes, now you can play queen d7, and if that, you get the same idea. So you can always throw that in. Alright, now we're taking a look at one of the lines. Queen c7. Okay. At certain levels, they don't really let players don't go theoretical, so you're not gonna have to worry about too much. Queen c7 was covered in Grandmaster Simon Williams' setup, and then Bobby Fischer threw in, I believe, a This is actually a game that Bobby Fischer did. Oh, it was Nigel Short. There should be one for, I thought that he talked about that this was a move that Bobby threw in, because sometimes what you might have is if they don't throw in h4, you may have d2, and then what you can do if you don't want to have a open position or attack here, you can always close this down, and then you have a close, but you lose your attacking flank on the queen side. So b6, check, and then of course bishop intercepts, castles, bishop takes, a takes, knight d7, queen d3, h6. Oops, that's a6. Sorry, not. I need to do h6. That's to stop knight and bishop from coming in. Rook a4, castle kingside, d2, rook f c8, rook c1, knight f8, and this is to try to get your knight involved. You don't really have to go down. We're also going to explore another line. You don't have to go down the Winier line if you don't want to. There's actually a classic setup, and then we'll get through this one. Here we have two more, and then I'll show you the classic setup, so that if you wanted to, because there's a bunch of Winiers, but I'm going to show you the classic line. Rook a6, queen d7. This is so that when the rook goes rook a ca1, c4, check, queen f1, queen takes b, takes a, takes, knight c6, and rook a2. He's saying that this is slightly better for white. That's debatable. That's debatable. I actually like black here. This is pretty closed. Let me see, what does the engine say? Let's give it a second. Yeah, I like it. I'm right. Yeah, we're right. Wow, that was odd. Surprised he said it was better for white. It's actually slightly better for black. That's interesting. Oh, this must be the Bobby Fischer A4 line that I'm talking about here on Moose 7, not the knight. Okay, I remember now. It still takes scope there. Bishop D2. Knight BC. Knight F3. Bishop D7. Bishop B5. Queen C7. Castles. Castles. Rook E1. B6. Bishop D3. So he's retreating back. There's no point in having the bishop there. H6. Queen C1. Trying to open up for. And then C4. Bishop F1. King H7. If you were thinking something like crashing in there, I'm thinking takes might actually be better at this point. Let me see what they're saying here. Yeah, C takes D. C takes D. Then knight A5. If he takes here, you could actually, I believe, take with the king. And if the queen comes in, you just play knight G6 and you cover up. Okay. Okay, I was just wondering about that. There we go. Okay. One more, and then we'll take a look at, we're not going to put it in, but we'll take a look at the classic variation. There's a subline. Okay. Queen D2. Knight F3. Bishop D7. Bishop B2. F6. E takes. G takes. B takes C. Castle queen side. Castle king side. And now it's E5. C4. D4. Queen H6. Knight G6. Knight D2. F5. Knight B3. Queen C7. F4. Knight B4. This goes after this pawn. Bishop D1. D3. C takes, and then knight takes. With chances for both sides on this one. Okay. Let's get to the classic variation. I think there's Let me make sure I get to the classic. Hold on. Did we already do that? I think we might have done the classic. Hold on. Yeah. This, well, we already did the classic, but what we'll do is I'll pull up another tab and I'll show you what I'm talking about, the classic here. This actually does this, and we're just going to do analysis mode. We're not going to put it in because it's already been put in. We're just going to go over it. And I want to show you what we're talking about here, here. Oops, I have to flip the board. And then we'll get into a game. And if you played here, rather than playing the bishop out to b4, you can actually play knight f3 or knight f6. And then if he plays the mainline bishop g5, bishop e, and after e5, the knight retreats back. And now if he takes, you take, and you've reached a classic setup. You don't have to worry about all the theoretical lines that you have to know. So like bishop here, c5, and knight here. If you take, knight takes, knight comes in, knight takes, pawn takes, and he castles, you castle, rook e1. You do have knight c that you can actually play here. And there's also, if you wanted to get the bishop pair, you could. You also can play knight, you can also play f6 after pawn takes, knight takes. Then you have this center. And if you wanted to get out of the pin, you could. And then potentially start rolling your center pawns up the board. So I probably, if I was less of a theoretical line person, I'd probably go down the classic. So we'll show you the classic one more time. It's less theoretical, and this is basically what you'll probably get, something similar to this. And if they come out, you can always take, because you don't have a dark squared bishop anymore, so you're gonna have to take. And then if knight takes comes in, and sometimes they won't exchange. They'll try to play something like this to come in, something like this. You may have an idea like that. And then what you can do is just castle, and if they bring the knight in, you just move the rook, and it's like, what really have you accomplished? I'm still eyeing this here, and after I take here, I'm going to be attacking your knight. So after this move, they may try to cement it with a4 here, and then they're actually gonna delete. They're gonna have to. They could try this again, but this time, well, let me see. Probably you're gonna have to move your knight. Now this knight's actually trapped. So there's a lot of trapping lines in this, but this is a solid, very solid setup. If you don't want to go down, like I said, like I'm going to repeat one more time, if you don't want to go down theory, your classic's your best idea. And there's also one other setup that potentially could arise at 1400 level. It's called the advanced variation. And then you get a setup like this. And then there's two main lines that you can actually go down. You can go down knight b6 or bishop d7. Knight b6, though, it has a slight issue with it because of a3. They found a way to handle that. See, the whole idea, you're probably wondering why a3? If they tried something else like this, knight takes, or if pawn takes, then you get an in-between check here. After knight there, then you potentially could actually play knight takes here, knight takes, and then bishop takes, and you can grab here with check, so you win a pawn. So that's why they play a6, so that now if you were to take here, there's no bishop and there's no knight and queen attack after the bishop blocks. That's the idea. And then if you try to keep developing, like with after here, if you tried bishop d, he now can try b4. After you take, pawn takes, you could play here. He can actually try developing here. You come in. So he probably wouldn't want to develop there. You probably want to play here, and then there. This is really solid, and you have potentially a queen coming out here, a queen coming out there. If you like the old this queen b6 is actually the old main line. There's a modern line with bishop d7. Both of them are pretty usable here. You just have to always be on guard when they do this here, because if pawn takes, knight takes here, if knight comes out, you can actually come here and you're good. Because if you didn't bring the bishop out, let's say, there's also this trick here that if you take, you bring the queen out, the bishop comes here, and you think, oh, I've won a pawn. Surprise, surprise, you didn't win a pawn. You actually lose here, and the queen can grab your queen. It's over. So yeah, there's a whole bunch. The French is fun. Okay, now that we've gone over that, so we'll pick up Winier tomorrow again. But it's always fun to go over the classic. But if I was you, I'd probably, and I wasn't a theoretical player, I'd go down the classic line. Just a lot less theory to know, and the chance of a draw is higher too. The Winier kind of puts black on the back foot a little bit, because of black has given up his dark square bishop. True, in the classic variation, if they don't play bishop b4 and they just push, well, I'll show you in just a second. I should do that really quick, just go over it really fast. I just wanted to show you this thing here. Sorry, I know it's the French. Oops, not there. And let's say here, let's say they don't play bishop d, but they play here. This is the Steinitz variation of the classic line. And then if they try to develop with this here, you can actually play c5 and then just develop. And so then you can bring your queen out. Some points you can actually bring your queen to c7 in some lines. So, but that's for a late. That's just a side thing. Had to show you that one. Let's get us some puzzles now. Let's get us a right there. Let's put some pawns for white. Let's get our knights and our bishops. King. Where's the white king? White king's here. Queen. this right. Yeah. Good job. Let's get another one set up here. Good job. What if bishop h5? What if bishop h5 instead of knight takes? There we go. Kaboom. Let's see if we can't pound through 12 of these and still get an endgame in. I went a little bit over on my opening, but I gotta say, you have to have an okay opening when you go in. But as we learned from Smyslov, Smyslov was just an all-around good player, and he said he was okay in the opening, but he wasn't like, you know, an opening master. He just knew how to tell when a position was good or a position was bad. And that's something that you learn by just practicing and having your own system. Can this be right? Oh, it's on the first rank, sorry. I knew there was something right here. I think I got it. I got it. Do you have it? Do you got it? Alright. Queen a6. King takes, and then queen f1 is mate. And he has to take. And this comes in mate. Is that what you got, Chess 360? Was that the one you got? Let's see, what do you have here? King D. Oh, interesting. Oh yeah, you could take there. Oh, yeah, that would, forgot about that, that he can take. You're right. Bishop. Our bishop, takes there, and then queen h8. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. It's good. Good, good. That's good. It's good. It's good and good. Oh yeah, hi Raymond 0798 89 I mean M. Okay. Let's see, bishop takes there. Huh. Bishop takes. 93. Oh, that does work, doesn't it? Because of a pin. I was checking here, but there. The problem is if C4, then it doesn't work. It's not the full meal deal. So that the other one, the one you proposed, is actually the correct one. The other one's like mate 3. want to get a little bit of extra endgame in, so we might just do 6 tonight, and then do some endgame because we're on the one for Robert James Fisher. I'll give you a second to take a look at this, and then we'll be right back. Alright, so white to move, and force mate, let me see. There we go. There we go. So let's get in on this. Do some endgame now. now we have to read about Robert James Fisher. Hold on, let me get a sip of soda first, and then we'll get going. There we go. Okay. Our last but not least, the 11th world champion, chess champion, the master of the bishop endings. That's what they call Bobby, or Robert. Born in 1943, the legendary American Grandmaster was an aggressive, trying to win at all costs kind of player. Positioning like the opening preparation that was ahead of his time. The work echoes of Alekhine, so his play echoes of Alekhine, the technique of Capablanca, and the will to win that terrified literally everyone he faced. Fischer bulldozed through the world's best players. Bulldoze basically with a bull through the world's best players on his way to the highest title. Though Fischer played the ultra sharp openings like the King's Indian and the Najdorf as black and e4 as white, didn't make the mistake of pegging him with an attack. He didn't make the mistake of pegging him as an attacking player. His was a style based on iron logic, deep positional ideas, and he was always happy to leap into an endgame, secure in the knowledge that few could challenge him in that stage of the game. Fischer's love of bishops was well known, and his magnificent handling of them in the endgame has never been equaled. Our first example is an excellent illustration of Fischer's incredible chess education. So let's set up. This is Tamanov as white and his opponent Fischer as black. He says, poor Tamanov. In several games, due to Fischer's skill in the bishop endgame, his commentation from his excellent book, Tamanov's Selected Games, give us a taste of what he went through in the games that he faced Bobby. I got into time trouble, and before the control, I missed a sure win. But in the adjourned position, I still had a winning chance. Fischer faced a difficult defense. My colleagues took a wager, basically. That's what he said in his book. Bobby wouldn't save the game, so his friends took a wager and said that, how they do, just jokingly. They just joked about it. They said that Bobby wouldn't be able to save this game, but they were wrong. Indeed. And then when after the tactical complications, the game went into an ending where Bobby was a pawn down, one sensed that the correct decision would not come easy to Fischer. And that he was balancing on the edge of the abyss. But then the critical, most important position was reached. Bobby suddenly began playing quickly and flawlessly, like an automatic, basically like a automatic thing, like that. And more than a dozen different moves within a minute. Bobby Fischer did more than a dozen different moves in less than a minute. And the draw became irreversible. Stunned by the fate, I asked him, Bobby, how did you manage to find this saving path so quickly? I didn't need to find anything, said the the confident Bobby with a smile. A few years ago, your magazine, Shackmeyer versus the Soviet, publishing a detailed analysis of this endgame by Avra Bach, and I remembered all the variations perfectly well. So basically, how many years ago? A few years ago. So about several years ago. Let's give it 2 years. 2 years ago, Bobby Fischer. I had to put my shoe back on. Memorized this one position here, and I'll show you what he did. I wanted to read this to you first to show you what's going on. He had this position here. He was down a pawn. Bobby's actually black, and he had his opponent had played this already. So this is black to move. Let's take it to a study. Okay. What would you think the move here for black would be? I'm throwing it into your court for right now. I want you to see your Bobby, your Robert Fischer. So what would you play here? You're black, by the way. Black to move. Do you want to give it a shot? Come on. Give it a shot. Give it a try. Alright. Oh, bishop g5. Interesting. Hold on one second. Did I... Uh-oh. My bad. Sorry, guys. I think the position was just 1 second. Yikes. Sorry. I think you're right. That would be a how did I get the position pawn bishops wrong? I had him set up right. Uh-oh. Sorry guys. Just hold on. I have this position wrong. Sorry, this was the move. Now this is black. I apologize about that. I don't know what happened. I think when it was translated, yeah. The bishop will form a block to the white king that will force him to part with his g-pawn. In exchange for black's d-pawn, the resulting position, though, seemed dangerous for black. In fact, a forced draw. King f1. D3, bishop B4, and if you were thinking G5 at this point, let me see here. D3. If you're thinking G5, King F5. Hold on, what am I? King D7. Somehow they put in two G5s there. That's odd. Maybe it's G6 that they're talking about. King E6. Bishop this is a weird variation, because it shows G5 at this point here instead of let's see, D, instead of bishop B4 it shows G5, and then it goes King D7, then it shows G5 again. See, it showed G7, G5, I'm sorry, King D7, and then it shows G5 again. I'm not exactly sure why. What it says G5, huh? Maybe there was a mistake here, and maybe it means G6. And then it said King F5, but there's no way to get to King F5. King F5 would be over here. Yeah. Then King F5. But how do you get to F5 from here? There's really no way to do that. It's actually, that's what it's, yeah, I think it's a typo. Well, maybe, well, let's just do this. Let's say he moves here. There we go. Now this will make more sense. Okay. And then bishop F6. Maybe he means how does he get? Maybe it's H6. King G6. How does he? That doesn't make sense. So maybe it's something to do with maybe not G6 here. I'm not sure. Something to do with maybe something like this. I don't know. That was kind of odd. Supposedly, whatever line that would have been equal. I'm not exactly sure what happened to that line there. That was kind of odd. I think it might have been a typo. Let's see. Oops. A1 and F4. Bishop F4. The threat is to actually play D2 and actually win here. Win a piece. So bishop C3, bishop G3, G5, A6, G7, king e7 is actually, there's controversy over this, so I'll still just go with the controversy. They're saying that this was a mistake. Here we step into a bit of controversy since this move has been considered to be satisfactory since it was played in 1960. However, his friend I Am Jack Peters claims that it is losing, it is a loss. It says that black's correct drawish line should have actually been this here. This should have been the correct drawish line. Then g4, bishop g5, king f2, bishop h6, f3, bishop g5, bishop d4, h6, g7, king f7, bishop f6, bishop c1, g5, king g8, g6, then bishop c g6, okay, bishop h, and then bishop c3, and then bishop g5 is in equal position with which is drawn. This should equal a draw. One of his friends said that it was slightly I don't know, it's hard to say if it was a mistake or not, so I'll just keep it as it was. I'll just take off the blunder. There's some controversy that it was, but since the 60s they think it's still okay. So you have to, we'll just keep it as neutral. Trying to see. We'll put an unclear position there. We'll put unclear. That means unclear. So we're not sure if it's dubious or not, but this was a potential win. Oh, that could be too. I'll do that. Controversial. Interesting. There we go. So bishop e1. Having sidetracked black's king, it is time to free his own monarch from its cage, basically. So black can't allow the exchange of bishops, because it would actually, we would get into a fox and the chicken coop idea of Jeremy Silman, and wouldn't work very good. Queen h4, bishop h4, king f8, and then g3. If he played bishop f6, that would have actually been a mistake, because bishop g3, and now it's an equal position because he's back in the cage again. There's no way to get him out of the cage, except basically do the rounds again. You'd have to do the rounds all over again. Bishop d6. King d2 or f2. Bishop c5, check. King f3, king g7, bishop g5, king takes. They're saying that bishop f4 is another controversial move, so I'll put that in there. Unclear position. And this move was also been glossed over in past notes. However, it turns out to be a blunder that allowed black back into the game. So this was a blunder. And then his friend Jack Peters again analyzed and proved that bishop e3 was actually an exclam mark. Bishop b4, g4 exclam again, because he's trying to get that pawn and use it as a distractant. King f6, bishop f4, king g6, king e3, d2, and king e2 actually wins. This wins for white. The other one loses. King king to h5, and then king to e4, king g4, king takes d, king f3. This allows the activity of the king. So now knowledge never hurts. So the Fischer no doubt was playing fairly rapid at this point, and well aware that the unavailable exchange of the g pawn for the b pawn would lead to a position he was well acquainted with. So if he could get this pawn for this pawn, then it would be a draw. So bishop c7, bishop f2, bishop d6, bishop e1. A little dance ensures white takes his time, a bit of cat and mouse, before finally winning black's b pawn in exchange for his g pawn. King d4, king g4, king c5, king b4, king b5, king f5, king c4, or that was c5, c4, king e6, bishop c7, king f5. He doesn't want to allow the pawn to advance to g4. King d3, king g4, bishop d6, king c, bishop c3, king c4, bishop e1, bishop takes b, bishop takes g. He waited for him to move. Fischer takes no more than 60 seconds for the rest of the game. Bishop, oops, not c5. It's bishop c3. Bishop d6. King d5. Bishop e7. threatening to play bishop c5, followed by that and that. So bishop b4. Wait a second, sorry, that's bishop d4. Threatening to play here, and so bishop b4 was played, forcing white's king to give ground if the pawn is to safely advance. So king c4, bishop a5, bishop c3, and then bishop d8 to keep an eye right here, and then b4. It turns out from what we were this right here, if Fischer had played let me see, where does it say? He played f4 exclam, but he's saying that if Robert Fischer had played king to f5, this was actually taken from Capablanca's game, one of Capablanca's games in 1916. It turns out that king d5, bishop b6, bishop d4, bishop c7, and b5, bishop d8, king c6, king e6, bishop b6, king g5, bishop c7, bishop e3, bishop d6, and bishop f2. Bishop c5 to kind of pocket this there. Bishop g3 to cover the queening square. b6, bishop f4, b7, bishop g3, bishop b here, bishop b8, bishop c7, and this actually wins for white. So he was one move away. If he had played this, that would have went back to one of our games in Capablanca, where Capablanca was white, and he actually beat his opponent because he played king at f5 instead of f4. It was only a year after Capablanca's game that Fischer's defensive scheme, bringing the king over to the top of the pawn instead of in front of it, was discovered. So he actually found this by trial and error, basically. King e4, and he looked for it. Bishop c7. Bishop d4. Bishop c7. White's king will again have to give up ground in the effort to advance his pawn. So king c5, bishop d3, king c6, king c4 exclam, And of course, he can't take this because if he does, there's not enough. It's insufficient material. At this point of black's play, the pawn isn't going anywhere. So bishop b6 and bishop g3. Bishop a, then bishop c7, exclam, and this would be in a draw. Our next, let's see how much time I got left. I think I have enough time for one more endgame. Yep, we got enough time for one more. Our next example is a complex endgame. Once again, Fischer's position possesses his favorable bishop. So let's get to that position here. Hold on, board editor. Where Fischer's mixed mathematical perception and the fine art creates one of the greatest endgame performances of all time. So this is the one we're talking about right here. Let me get the knight ready, and then get the rook. White to move here. I'm gonna do, oops, wrong one. I'll have to fix that after class, so let's delete that one. Somehow I clicked the wrong one. So this was a masterpiece by Fischer. White's advantage is clear. The bishop is far more active than the knight. White's rook is more active than its counterpart. Black's king has no way into the enemy position, while white has a path from f1 to a6 diagonal, and black's king side pawns are all on light squares, meaning they will be permanently vulnerable to an attack by the bishop. And I'm going to throw this into your court now, my chess friends. You are white. You're Robert Fischer. What's the move? Give it a shot. Give it a try. What do you think the move is? You're white. White to move. Well, which one are you going to pick out of that lot? Which one of those are you going to pick out of that lot? Because there's one that's right out of the lot. There's only one that's right. You have the three. You have three moves. There's only one that's right though. You have to choose wisely of the lot that you wrote down. Choose wisely. I'll give you 30 seconds to give it your best effort, and then I'll show you. You like, but what is the best one though? What is the best? So you may like it, but what's the best move? Okay. Bishop b5 is actually the move that Robert Fischer played. And then rook d6. There you go. There you go. Yep. That's right. You got it. Black is hoping to trade rooks and swing the king to d6. Where it will create a complete blockade by depriving White's king of access to c4 square. White doesn't mind the swap of rooks, but he'll only allow this to happen once he prevents the knight from maneuvering to d6. So now this is you have one huge task here. You have to find the move that Bobby Fischer played, and it's an exclam move. So now you got to get into the head of Bobby Fischer. You have to get into the mind of Bobby Fischer. So what would Bobby Fischer play here? And I'll give you a minute to think about it. I'll tell you when let's do it right. Nope, I had to wait 19 seconds. So you have like a minute and 19 seconds to kind of think about your white here. And there's only one move that's an exclam. I'll tell you when I'm starting the time. So I'm going to see what you come up with within a minute. Now, go. You have a minute. Tell you when I'll tell you when the 30-second marker is. You got 30 seconds. "15 seconds. Keep trying. 6, 5, 4, 3. No, yeah, it's there we go. It's actually surprisingly King E2 because that's actually, it was kind of a tough one. I know I put you on the spot. I wanted to see what you were going to do under kind of time pressure. You did good. The king can recapture on d3 after the rook exchange, for example. If white had played the rook d3 right away, that would have actually been a blunder on white's part. Takes check, bishop takes, and then knight d8 exclam for black. You did good though. When black forms an unbreakable blockade, bishop c4, king e7, bishop d5, king d6, bishop g8, king e7, king e3, knight b8, king d3, knight d6. Note that pawn b4, king f6, b takes a, b takes a, still leaves white with no way to enter. So there's no way to enter at this point. So king e2, rook d3, oops, sorry, wrong, king d8, that was my bad there. After rook f6, if black tried rook f6, followed by king d3, rook d6 check, king c4, rook d2, rook d3 check, king takes, rook takes, king d6, and then bishop takes, king takes, and king c4, king c7, king d5, so he breaks the barricade, king d7, and then c4. Black must allow white to clean out his pawns on one side of the board. So king c here, king e6, or if king e7, king c6, and he gives way. There we go. So d8, and then rook d3, king c7, d6. Well, I really can't play right now because we're doing our studies. King takes d6, king d3. White now threatens to trade bishop for knight and get a winning king and pawn endgame. So the knight has to play knight e2, e7, sorry. If king c7, then of course we go down the trading line again. Yeah, c7 here. Actually, so he goes king b5 at this point. King c4, king c7, king a6, king c6, king a7, king c7, king b3, king c6, king b8. Very nice by far, but far simpler is actually to not to play b5, but to play d5 here, and then just go down that one line. d7, c4, and much simpler than, because he's going to have to give away one of these. Oops, give away, and he'll enter in one of these and then gobble the pawns up. Bishop e8 there, and he's going after the pawns, starting to basically annex more territory, where the bishop ties the knight down to the defense of his pawns while simultaneously forcing black's king so that its own monarch cannot advance. King d5, bishop f7 check, kicking the king back so white can claim c4. King d6, king c4, king c6, bishop e8. Again pushing the king back so that white can move up to b5, king b5. The fact that the bishop is dominating the king and knight at the same time is remarkable. King b7, king b5, knight c8, and then bishop to c6 check, exclam. This bully of a bishop once again forces the black king to head away. He must give up control of a6 or c6. It's important to point out that Fischer could have ruined his masterpiece by playing this move here. Bishop takes g6 would have actually ruined his masterpiece, because then knight d6 would have been mate. This kind of helpmate in endgames has become known in some American circles as the Niall Short move. So this kind of one time happened, must have happened to a player that Niall Short faced, and he was black and his opponent took the pawn, and so Niall was able to win by a helpmate. So they got that nickname, which is pretty cool. Having something named after you. King c7, bishop d5, threatening to play a6, and so king, so that threatens this. King e7. After, black also loses after king d6. King d6, king a6, knight e4, bishop f6, or f7, sorry. Knight takes, bishop takes, king c6, bishop e8 check, king c7, king b5, knight e2, bishop takes, h5, knight takes f, bishop f7, exclam, and dominates the black bishop. He can resign after both knight d3, then bishop g6, or king d6, king d6, and then king takes b6. Whatever he plays, that'll happen. So on move 13, after here, if c4, bishop g8, king c6, bishop h7, knight e4, bishop takes check, king c5, Bishop f7, 92. Bishop takes here, takes f, and then bishop d1. Exclam. Kasparov, it might have seemed clear that to Mr. Kasparov, but let's check out a few more moves that could. Kasparov actually talked about this one here. Knight d5, h5, knight knight f6, h4, f4, bishop f3, knight h7, bishop e4, knight g5, h7, knight f7, bishop g6, knight h8, bishop h5. And the bishop continues to dominate the black knight. Oh no, this was against Fischer versus Tamanov in Vancouver in 1972. The game might have actually continued with, let me see, so it actually continues the line, wow. King c6, bishop f3 check, king c5, king b7, knight g6, bishop h5. There's only there's other ways to win, but he loves this theme that white sets up. Knight h8, king c7, b5, it takes, king takes, king d6, king a4, bishop d1 check, king b5. Wait a second. How did d? No, it can't be right. Must be b3. King e7. Because there's no way to get to well, yeah, I guess there is d1. Sorry. Yes, there is d1. Not e8. Sorry, d1's right here. King b5. Because there's now he can't enter because of here, so he has to go back. And then king e7, and it's game, set, and match at this point. Yeah, we'll finish up on this. So e7, bishop f7 here, king b7. Black seems to have managed to keep white's king off a7. But now the bishop regroups and manages to create a lovely Zugzwang. Bishop b3, king a7, bishop d1, king b7, forcing a knight to move and allows the decisive king c6 infiltration. So bishop f check, king c7, and then king actually went to a6. But if let's see here. If king a7, c4, exclam is a actual power move. Because you're thinking, oh no, you're you're losing a lot of stuff. King g8, king c6. There we go. And we still have tempo that we can waste too if we need to waste a move. Knight f6, king d6, knight e4, king e5, knight takes there, king f6, and wins. Yay, we win. So we move here successful. Next up, bring the bishop back to f7. We have to get our bishop back to f7. Our e8. Either any one of those squares would be perfect for our bishop. Let me get a sip of soda and then we'll continue down this route. Knight c8. Bishop d5. Remember, the idea is to come here or here to get to one of these 2 points there. Knight e7. Bishop c4. Exclam. This also is an idea too. This allows the bishop to go to f4 with gain of tempo. Knight c6. Bishop f7. So that's why it's a gain of tempo. So if king instead of the knight move, king c6, b5 check, king c7, bishop e8. It will lead to the same position as in the game. But he moved back, then we played bishop there, knight e7, bishop e8. Now he's in a Zugzwang position. This might well be the greatest bishop of all time, having completely outmaneuvered the whole black army. It creates a winning Zugzwang position. King d8, bishop takes g6. Exclam, you're thinking, whoa, hello, what in the world? A heroic piece now sacrifices itself to serve as a way to get 3 pawns. Knight takes, king takes b, king d7, king takes c5. White gets 2 protected passed pawns on the queen side versus a rather not good king side. So knight e7, b4, a takes, c takes, knight c8, a5. If he tries to hold, if he tries c7 to hold, that fails to b5. King b7, a5, oops, a5, knight c7, knight c8, king d5, knight a7, king e6, knight takes b5, king takes f5, knight d7, king g6, knight e2, f5. And this actually wins. There's no way to stop the loss of these two. That's just incredible. That's a win. That is incredible there. So a5. knight d6, b5, knight e4, king b6, knight c8, king c6, king b8, b6, and it's resignable. One possible finishing continuation, I'll put a mark here because this is where the resonation happened. There's one key thing, then I got a log after this one. Knight takes g3, a6, knight e4, a check, king a8, b8 check. Remember this combination: king takes, and then king c7, and the pawn queens would check. This perfect performance by Fischer. Fischer's up 4-0 in the match, which he utterly won by being up ahead of 6-0-6. Okay, so we're going to just in case you think Fischer's one smarter piece. Okay, tomorrow we'll check to see how he handles a knight as black, but we'll call it on that. I'm going to put this in here so it doesn't damage the book. Here, I'll do this. There we go. Alrighty. Okay, you have to remember that we're gonna log off now. Do you have any questions? Do you have any questions before I log off? Okay. So that no, I wanted to thank you all for logging on. Thank you for participating. Thank you for kind of staying around while we did our end game. The end game is full of many adventures and strategic plans. You have to have a plan when you enter your end game. Where you want to go. If you enter with a minor piece, do you want the minor piece? Do you want, if it's a bishop, you want to lock the pawns on squares that potentially would be targets for your bishop to attack. If it's a knight, you want to keep it closed. Of course, we know that. And you have to always make sure that you don't close up in routes for your king to get into, because if you move the pawns incorrectly, sometimes you'll only make you can't enter in, and there's no way for you to win, and it ends up a draw even though you may have an advantage. So just keep that in mind. Remember to also, like what Bruce Lee says, to practice 10,000, like everybody says. He says he didn't fear the person who practiced 10,000 individual kicks. He feared the person who practiced one kick 10,000 times. So we need to practice our tactics. We need to practice our end game, and then pick an opening you like. Practice that, but don't get so like I like to say, around the axle in the opening. Usually it's in about 2,000 or above that you have to get into theoretical lines. So just take that, just remember that, so that you don't get, you become really good at a certain opening, but then your opponent, who's a lower level player, not that they're not good, they just divert off out of book, and you're like, oh no, what do I do? If you had a good, like understanding of principles, of like the tactics and stuff, you'll know that once they go off that line, that there's a reason that the line's there, and it may set up for a tactic 3 or 4 or 5 moves down the road. So just keep an eye out for that. Remember that you need to take what you know and apply, and be willing to do something with it. And remember always to treasure your victories and learn from your losses. And remember that mistakes do not define you. It's how you handle the mistake that defines you. And you have to remember that our mind's made by the Lord Jesus, and our minds, like what Brucey said, do have plateaus in points. Or I like to use the example of bricks, that you can actually if you're building let's say a fireplace, and you do one or two rows a day, and you do that over a certain amount of time, the lower ones become harder the more you go up over time. Every day they get a little harder by half the amount. So one day it would be 50%, 75, then 12, and up, and onward it goes. But if you wait to the last moment to study, and then you stack 10 rows, and you try to build a fireplace basically like that, you remember each day 50%. So eventually what's going to happen is your fireplace is going to either teeter, or all the bricks are going to fall off, or even if it does dry, it's not going to last the test of time. But the ones that did one or two rows a day, that fireplace will last. So, and you know what? That's a good motto to use for your life and stuff, as I like to say. And so what we have to also do is remember, whatever you think about and you spend your time doing will end up molding who you are. So if you spend time, doing chess and with the Lord, you'll find things that you thought were important actually start getting out of your life, and they're not important. You'll focus down on what the Lord would have you to do. If you're really good in chess and a natural talent, you'll start focusing down on that and understand that that's the gift and talent the Lord's given you, so that you're not like the one, you're like the two or the five who took their talent, did something with it, and then the two increased two and the five increased five. But the one always, he made an excuse when the Lord came to give an account for the talent that those got. He said, "Well done, good and faithful servant," to the two and the five, but he told the one to leave and not come back, and that he wasn't welcome because he didn't use his talent. When the Lord gives you a talent, you should use it to honor him, because it's a gift from above always. And let me see, I believe that what Yasser Seirawan also would say is that every long journey begins with one small step. So you need to take your small step every day. That's like the fireplace example. And so don't give up, get up. And I'm trying to think, oh yeah, we have one more. Grandmaster glasses, always remember to bring those. Put those on so that you can see the moves that you need to play. And what do chess crunchers do? They hang up their coats, they hang up their hats, they sit down and study when most won't. Chess crunchers do. And that makes all the difference. And as Wesley So says for the Lord Jesus, and as I say, God bless, and I'll see you next time on Chess Cruncher TV. Have a blessed morning, afternoon, evening, and Lord willing, I'll be back on tomorrow. And we'll keep pushing forward, and I appreciate your patience. Always sticking with me and listening, and taking the knowledge that my grandmaster teacher told me, and that life lessons the Lord has brought me through and all that, and taking it to heart. It's really important to do that. But like, what did Hannibal Smith say? He said he loved it when a plan came together, but he also said that a good plan was one that you knew what your opponent's going to do. You basically had an idea based around that, but you always kept your plan in the forefront. But you had to, for a moment, stop his. And when that all happened, he said, I love it when a plan comes together. Okay, great job, team. Go, Team Chess Cruncher, hoorah, be blessed, and I'll see you tomorrow. And keep studying chess, honoring the Lord Jesus, and having fun. Be blessed, and I'll see you tomorrow.